Hello everyone, welcome to Mastermind. So this is part 3 of Indian Constitution in which we are discussing. This is the third part actually. So in the part 1 there are actually 4 articles. So we have already discussed from 1 to 3. In this part we will finish the fourth and we'll start with the second part. So I'll tell you first 5 part of Indian Constitution, which is part 1. It has a union, that is it constitutes of union and territory. Okay, union and its territory, which we are seeing over here, the union and its territory. In case of part 2, it speaks about citizenship. And part 3 is related to fundamental rights. Part 4 is related to directive principles of state policy or DPSP. Then there is part 4A, which is related to fundamental duties. Then there is part 5. Part 5 speaks about the union. Then there are other parts also which we'll discuss further on. Now we are discussing about part 1. Part 1 will be over, and in this video only we'll start with the part 2, which is citizenship again. So in the part 1 there is article 1 to 4. So this is the fourth article. In part 2, in citizenship, 5 to 11 it is citizenship. Then 12 to 35 it is fundamental rights. Then there is 36 to 51 it is DPSP. 51A is fundamental duties, and then union constitutes of 52 to 151. So these are the things. So we have already discussed first 3 articles. This is the fourth article. Fourth article is pretty easy for us because it speaks about the first 2 and 3 articles. So in the first article we saw that there was a name which was given. And it mentioned about the territories, what territories includes. In the article 2 we saw creation or admission of new states. And in the third article we saw formation of new state with existing states. So this we have discussed in last 2 parts. So article number 4, what article number 4 says, we'll read it out. Laws made under article 2 and article 3. So we have seen what are the laws made under article 2 and article 3. Article 2 is related to admission of new states. Article 3 is related to existing states modification to form the new state. Laws made under article 2 and article 3 to provide for the amendment of the first and fourth schedule. Again, we have discussed about the schedule. So it is tiers of old PM, which we have already seen. Okay, so it is saying about first and fourth schedule. So this is 1, 2, 3 and 4. So 1 and 4. What is the first one saying? It says that it has the names of all the states and union territories. And fourth one, R, says that allocation of seat to Rajya Sabha. Okay, so we are just breaking down the article in smaller bits to understand it even more further. So the laws which are made under article number 2 and article number 3 in order to provide for the amendment of first and fourth schedules and supplemental, incidental and consequential matters. According to that, 4 subclause 1 says that any law which is referred to in article 2 or article 3, any law which is referred to article 2 or article 3, it must already contain the provisions for this amendment. I'll try to simplify it even more. So we have seen related to schedules, correct? Don't complicate this. The words are sometimes confusing. That too, if you are reading it for the first time, it will definitely be very confusing. But we'll try to break it and understand it even more in a better sense. So in a simple words. In schedules, we have seen that in the first schedule, there is name of all the states and union territories. So if new state is formed or new territory is formed, that has to be included under the states only, correct? That has to be mentioned in the states in the first schedule. Next, fourth one says that allocation of seat to Rajya Sabha. Fourth one is speaking about the allocation of seats to Rajya Sabha. So the changes to this also because it is modification of the states only. That is, new state has been formed. Now there has to be different seats to represent that particular state, right? So that changes also has to be done to this Schedule 4 and Schedule 1. I hope you are understanding. In case of Schedule 1, it is related to the names, and in case of Schedule 4, it is related to allocation of seats to Rajya Sabha. Now whenever a new state is formed, the changes has to reflect in Schedule 1 also and in Schedule 2 also, because Schedule 2, which is Rajya Sabha, is itself Council of States, correct? Rajya Sabha itself is Council of States, so it has to reflect even here. So what Article 4 says is that whenever you are bringing Article 2, whenever you are bringing, let's say, Article 2 and Article 3, it should already have the amendment to make these changes. Whenever you are bringing Article 2 or Article 3, you are enforcing this Article 2 or Article 3 and making changes, that changes should already have the provisions to modify Schedule 1 also and Schedule 4 also. It should already have the changes to modify these two schedules. That is the first thing which it is telling. So we'll read it out again. Any law referred to in the Article 2 or Article 3 shall contain such provisions for the amendment of first schedule and fourth schedule. It is telling it shall contain, means whenever you are referring to these things, it must already have these provisions. It must already have these provisions. What provisions are these? These provisions are related to the changes in the first schedule also and fourth schedule also, as may be necessary to give effect to the provisions of the law, and may also contain such supplemental, incidental and consequential provisions, which means including the provisions to the representation in the parliament and in the legislature or legislatures of the state or states affected by such law. It should already have that as parliament will deem it necessary. This is what it is telling. So in other words, what we have seen till now, that itself you remember. So if you are changing the state and if you are bringing something to change the state or form a new state or change the existing state, you must already have the provisions included to change Schedule 1 also and Schedule 4 also. That is it. So Article 4 subclause 1 says only about that. Now this is very important article, which is Article 4 subclause 2. Again I'm telling you, it is not compulsory to remember the article numbers. You just remember what are the provisions like, what it is telling. So first one is naming the territories, second one is new territories, third one is modification, fourth one says that whenever all these things happen simultaneously, the changes has to be made in the schedules also, and fourth subclause 2 says that in case you are getting any such laws, it should not be treated as amendment as such. No such law as aforesaid shall be deemed to be an amendment to the Constitution for the purpose of Article 368. That is, whatever are the laws which are created under this part, that is part 1, union and the territory, that is related to Article 2 and Article 3. Any law involving Article 2 or Article 3 or any law which is created under these articles will not be seen as an amendment. It is not an amendment. It is not an amendment. This is the takeaway of this particular article. So the changes which has been made, it is not to be treated as amendment. Okay? So it means that whenever the changes are being made to the states, if it is related to existing state or new state, that is not treated as amendment. So you can't treat it as amendment. That is what the Article 4 in this part says. Now we will start with next part, which is part 2, which is related to the citizenship. So second part deals with citizenship. So let us understand in brief about citizenship and the articles related to citizenship. So in the next part, we'll start proper discussion related to citizenship. So as we are seeing, this is part 2 of Indian Constitution. It constitutes from Article 5 to Article 11. Article 5 says about the citizenship when the Constitution had commenced. That is, when the Constitution came into place. When the Constitution came into place, at that point of a time, whatever were the conditions, those are mentioned under Article 5. That is, who is born in the territory of India, either of whose parents were born in the territory of India, etc. We'll understand about those in detail, but I'm just giving you a brief. Article 6 says about the right of citizenship of certain persons who have migrated to India, from Pakistan, who have migrated to India from Pakistan, who have come to India from Pakistan. Article 7 says about the right of citizenship of certain migrants to Pakistan, who have been to Pakistan, who have been to Pakistan, about their citizenship. Then Article 8 says about right of citizenship of certain persons of Indian origin. Indian origin. Indian origin. 9 says about the persons voluntarily acquiring citizenship of foreign state. Okay, how to lose citizenship it is. Okay, lose citizenship, that is if any person acquires voluntarily another citizenship of other country, at that point of a time they will not be citizen of India. So that is in 9. So you can just mention it as foreign state. Foreign state, if they are taking citizenship of foreign state, at that point of time they'll lose Indian citizenship. Article 10 says about the continuance of right of citizenship. Right of citizenship, that is every person who is or is deemed to be part of citizen of India under any of the foregone provisions of the part shall, subject to the provisions of any law that may be made by the parliament, continue to be such citizens, etc. Now it might be a little faster for a few students who might have started uh, reading about the constitution now, but if you have read about the Indian polity before, about the citizenship before, then it might be a little easy. But nevertheless, we'll understand about each of these things in a little more detail. We'll make it easier. We'll break down the articles into different parts and then only we'll discuss. Article 11 says about the right which is with the parliament to make any law related to citizenship. Okay, so parliament can regulate the right of citizenship by law. So that is being set in the second part related to citizenship. So in the next part, which is part 4, we'll understand about each of these in detail from the constitution itself.